Alright, so guys, I thought I would give you an update on Boneshatter Slayer this league with all the new trans gems, the new Wildwood Ascendancies, etc. I've been getting a lot of questions about, especially Wildwood Ascendancies, so I'm gonna start with that. So we're gonna go, for now I'm doing Tinctures, like you can also go Primalist, so for now I'm Warden, I use Tinctures because it gives you an absurd amount of damage, and I'll explain why. So what we do is we're using the Shock Tincture, which allows all damage to shock, and that is the first normal you cannot shock with physical damage, obviously. So we use that, and we get chance to shock from our flasks that are adjacent to our tincture, which will allow us to just sustain it pretty much like 100% of the time with this node here. So we get the first node to be able to apply tinctures. We get this node to sustain the flasks that have, well, the granite and the flask that has a chance to shock, as well as getting an increased effect, and well, detect evil, which is just a feeler basically. But it's pretty nice to see where the rares are and uniques. It helps in sanctum and mechanic, and the mark on block. Nice for expedition if you're doing that. Uh, then the tincture, so it gives you shock and also gives you, like, for example, mine has overwhelm and mid strike range. It doesn't matter too much what you get there. I think the one that's important is overwhelm, so that you have one source of it. But it's not that important. And the main thing is having the shock flask, the shock tincture with chance to shock here on whatever adjacent flask you want to put it on. The other thing was the transfigured gem. So I'm using complex trauma now. The reason for that is that when you're mapping, you will never reach, like, very rarely you will reach 10 trauma stacks. So like for anything that's not pure single target with like 100% uptime and like just a spanking, it will always be better. And it's especially good with the shock tincture since it allows you to get bigger hits, which means bigger shocks. Like for example, right now I'm shocking pinnacle bosses for like 35%. So I've seen 41% shocks sometimes. But it is really, really strong. It gives you a ton of damage. Not only the tincture gives you shock, it also gives you adrenaline. So what you do is you use Death Rush. That's what I'm doing. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna remove it. And you put your warm flask next to your tincture. And that will allow you to sustain your warm flask pretty much like the entire time. You'll be able to get almost 100% of the time on adrenaline, as long as your totems don't kill the worms, obviously. So basically, just from using the tinctures, you get the shock, which is I'm averaging to like 25% more damage, and then you get adrenaline, which on Boneshatter is an absurd amount of damage. It's like 28 to 28% maybe damage. So it is huge. And that is one of the reasons I'm still doing tinctures instead of charms, which is the most popular choice. Because yeah, tinctures a ton of damage, and I have a hard time going away from it. Otherwise, if you went charms, you could go or there's a few nodes that I've written down that are pretty good. So like I have a list here, for example, good prefixes that you could get poison duration, get reservation from Hierophant, pretty good too to fit Arctic armor. You can get banner, free banner again, same thing. And I think these are the main ones, honestly, that I would use. Like mana reserve, banner, free banner, and poison duration. And for the suffixes, obviously the Juggernaut one, armor applying to elemental, but that's extremely rare. And yeah, for example, in SF, I don't. This is not reasonable to aim for like at all. So it would probably just be like some suppress, just to help fix the suppress, and mainly also the stun immunity. This one is really good to have. That's pretty much endless hunger. That's all you want from endless hunger. It's right there. So yeah, that's what I would like. For an example, my plan for my charms was to use 2 charms with our reservation and the jug suffix, the jug armor, and one with the assassin's poison duration and stun immunity or suppress if I need that. So yeah, like any combination of these would be good if you want to use charms. Other than that, I think that's all. Uh, yeah, there's like some questions that I get sometimes, like I'm dying, what's happening? Do not use brutality. Most people, the biggest mistake people do is they use brutality on the Boneshatter setup, which means they cannot poison, which means they cannot recover. They'll still have some leech, but that's not gonna be enough to sustain high trauma if you're playing with normal Boneshatter, for example. Also, another misconception people are making is that they think complex trauma will make you take more trauma damage, but that's not the case. Like, complex trauma is actually a lot more trauma efficient than normal Boneshatter is. For example, if you're at 10 trauma stacks with complex trauma, you're taking what 5,000 physical damage, right? Well, I'll put it 19 because you actually don't need to have it higher than 19. 19 will still give you 20% more trauma, 20% more damage per trauma, so that's enough. And that's like 2.5 times basically what you get on from level 20 Boneshatter. But you do not get 2.5 times more damage per trauma. You're getting way more than that. You're getting 4 times. Like at 10 trauma, you get 200% more damage versus Boneshatter, that's the equivalent of 40 trauma stacks. So it is a lot more trauma efficient. If you have trouble sustaining trauma with normal Boneshatter, for example, just play with complex, you will never have issues with that. I think that should cover it. So if I forgot something, let me know. I think that should be it. I haven't done anything different this league really. All I did was pick a Wildwood Ascendancy and adapt around it. Like Death Rush, probably the main change I've made because the Tincture that allowed me to have adrenaline like on boss fights very reliably. And well, yeah, the shock Tincture gives like an insane amount of damage. So I'm big fan of Tincture. I might go Charms later because Charms give you a lot more defense, but we'll see. Let me know if you have any questions. Yep, that's all for today. Peace.